up, you guys, and welcome back to the Televised Podcast. My name is Anna, and today we're going to be talking about Supergirl Season 6, Episode 15, titled Hope for Tomorrow. I really liked this episode. I think it wasn't as strong as some of the other episodes of this season, particularly, Episode 13, which is like a highlight for me. But I still really liked it, and I think that the decision made at the end of this episode to kind of like switch up the formula of the remaining episodes was really smart, because I think this episode proved that if they'd done another episode where it was so formulaic, trying to figure out, get the totem, stop the problems with the totems, the formula was getting kind of old, so I'm glad that they kind of put a stop to that formula in this episode. So I thought that worked out really well. Although I do have some conflicting feelings about how it happened. But so I think that's all I got. Let's just get into it. So we pick up the episode with Alex painting Esme's room, and she's actually painting a like mural on the wall, and there's this like fairy Martian that actually looks like Magan. And Jean explains that the fairy is actually a guardian that's meant to keep everyone who enters the room safe. It's like a Martian tradition. His daughter had one on her wall on Mars that his father had painted for her. So he thought it would be nice to continue that tradition. So Kara brings her old stuffed animals from Eliza's to give to Esme, because they helped her feel better when she first came to Earth, so she wanted to pass that along. And it's like Aunt Kara, Grandpa Jean, Mama Alex, like it's so cute. It's so sweet. It's like, this is my family. This is my family. Oh my god. So Alex actually says that the process for adopting Esme involves them, doing a bunch of prerequisites almost, and then they have to foster her for 6 months, and then they can finally adopt her. So it seems that is the path that they have chosen already, because it was unclear at the end of last episode whether that just meant that they would take her in for a little bit or take her in for forever. And it obviously, I think we all could have guessed that they were gonna adopt her eventually, but it's nice to make that known right now that they do have intention to adopt her, but they have to foster her for 6 months. And then Kelly actually brings Esme in, and Alex is extremely, like very clearly extremely nervous as she begins like over explaining Esme's room and like just like telling her all of the things that she could change. Oh, if you don't like it, we can change it. We can change everything, It's really endearing to watch Alex kind of like stumble through this. And then she introduces Esme to Kara, who tells her that she was actually adopted too. And then Kelly introduces Esme to Jean, and they shake hands in like this like super adorable moment. Esme is just so freaking cute. She is the cutest of the cute. Oh my god. And I can't. She's just so cute. And so Esme actually goes to put her little stuffed animal called Lovey. I think that probably we've all had a stuffed animal named Lovey, or know a child that has had a stuffed animal named Lovey. A very creative name. But she goes to put Lovey on her bed, but she actually phases through the wall instead. And that is where we learn that apparently she is an alien that can mimic other aliens' abilities. So what she had done there was, when she shook hands with Jean, she accidentally mimicked his ability to phase through things. So she phased through the wall, and Jean had to phase his arms through to pick her up. And it's really like, it was really sad, because she just like got so dejected, and she apologized. She said she'll never do it again. And it's like, oh baby. So on Naxum's ship, Nyxlex is reading William's article, she basically says that he's got it all wrong, that it's the super friends that are causing all the chaos, because if they just leave her alone, then she'd be on her merry way. You know, they wouldn't have to worry about her. She wouldn't have to do all this fighting if they just left her alone. As if she wouldn't use the All-Stone to, like, take over the universe. So she even compares Supergirl to her father, basically saying that she tells these tales to make herself look like the hero, but she's actually like this like overlord, you know, like a person, a power hungry, power obsessed person. And while she's kind of like ranting and raving, Mitch is like working on something, and he presents her with this like thing, like a cup, like another cuff. Like, he presents her with another cuff to put on top of the cuff that Mixie put on that would utilize the Courage Totem's power to restore some of her magic. And it actually works. She's able to, like, use her magic, and then she's off to the Hague to go get the Hope Totem. So then with Alex and Kelly, they are discussing how Esme must be so overwhelmed, you know, coming into her powers, not even knowing how they work, just like, you know, they're really worried about Esme and about her having control over her abilities and not being scared of herself. And Alex kind of expresses her worries about not wanting to make her feel worse. And Kelly's like, hey, look, I am really nervous too. But she tells her that having a family with Alex is a blessing, and being able to welcome Esme into their family is, you know, the best thing she could have ever imagined. And she just says that she wants to give her everything that she missed in life, and she believes that Alex can help her feel comfortable in her powers, just like she did with Kara when she was younger. And this is so sweet. I loved this episode for Dansen, specifically because it was just so important in showing these conversations between two women who have decided to start a family together, who have decided to take on the responsibility of, you know, becoming mothers and raising this child. And I just think it's so important to, like, show that and show a healthy, I mean, that's like the pinnacle word for Dansen is healthy in their relationship, in their you know, family life that they've created. Like, it was really cool to be able to showcase, like, the really, really healthy side of what queer adoption looks like, what it looks like when two women decide to build a family together. It's just really cool because, like, I mean, a lot of the time, like, we talked about it before, you know, people who adopt are not shown to be very kind in media, like, most of the time. So I think it's just really important to showcase this representation of the two of them, and especially how much they talk this episode, and how healthy that communication is between the two of them. It's just so cool, and I'm so happy that we're getting to see it on screen. And it's just like, it was such a core focus of this episode. Honestly, it almost felt like the A plot of this episode. I mean, it wasn't, it was the B plot, but it almost felt kind of like the A plot. Like, you're like, okay, I get it, you know, Kara's with, you know, Nyxlex, she's fighting for the totem, whatever. I want to know what's happening with Esme and Kelly and Alex. So at the tower, William shows up, and it's like, again, bro, did they give him a key? Did they just, they're like, here, all access pass. They gave him a Disney fast pass. And he shows up with baked goods. And again, it's just like, is this his only personality trait? Yes, it is. And Lena's there, and she actually tries to, like, get one, but he slaps her hand away, and he's like, no, that's for Esme, lady. So then Brainy comes up and asks if he should get Esme a train set, a castle, or a theme park, basically Lego set. He's not allowed to say Lego, but he's asking if what set of Legos he can get Esme, which is so on brand for Brainy, because of course he'd want her to do something that's, like, really engaging with her mind. Like, that's so cute. But as he asks this question, Lena and Kara simultaneously answer train. Like, hello? We finish each other's sandwiches. Like, come on. And that's so crazy, because it's like, That was literally a line, what, 608? When Kara came back? You know, when they were having that game, or maybe it was episode 9. Episode 9, when they were having that game night at Alex and Kelly's new house, and they were talking and they were like, we finish each other's, you know, sentence sandwiches, whatever they said. I can't remember. It was probably the Frozen reference of sandwiches. But like showing that like being so in sync is romantic and is like soulmateism, you know, to the peak level. And then having Kara and Lena literally answer at the exact same time, have the exact same answer, soulmateism again, like this Dansen parallel. And then Kara says, sorry, super hearing. Like, what? She'd just be eavesdropping. But then she also says, you know, words right out of my mouth, because Lena's like, yeah, she can go anywhere she wants with the train, you know, once she builds it. And Kara says, words right out of my mouth. It's like, these two are soulmates. They're on the same page all the time. And I don't know why they would include that, if not to show that they are on the same page, that they are, you know, like mirrors of each other, partners in every single aspect, to show that connection between the two of them. Supercorp endgame in conclusion. But then Kara asks if there's anything new about Nyxlex. Brainy says no, and that Nia isn't having any luck with the dream totem either, so that's why she's off in this episode. She is trying to find the dream totem. But then they get a hit from 3 days ago, from when Nyxlex was at The Hague, and Brainy says it's delays because he's stuck with 21st century upload speeds. But surprise, she's actually there right now. So Kara flies out and actually ends up blowing Lena's hair in the process. And again, it's very 519, very soulmateism. So at The Hague, Nyxlex says Cursix to activate the totem while using her courage and fear powers to paralyze Kara and Jean with fear. Jean is able to like counteract the power with using his psychic abilities. He's kind of able to like snap him out of it. But Nyxlex ends up getting away before they can fully nab her. So at the tower, Alex brings Esme up to the command center where Lena, Brainy, and William are all waiting with gifts. She says, these are my co-workers, and I feel like the modifier there of co-workers was really only used because William was there. Because, like, hey girl, Brainy and Lena are your friends. But when Lena leans down to greet Esme tells her, you're very pretty, and it's like, that is the sweetest thing. She's just, they could not have gotten a cuter little girl to play this role. Like, this is insane. She is adorable. Oh my god. So Alex then asks Brainy for some help with Esme's Dyralian power mimicking ability, because she's a Dyralian. She says, off the record, of course, and William's like, yeah, got it. And Brainy, the best man in the whole world, leans down and he tells Esme a funny story about a Dyralian he once knew, and it being stuck on the ceiling. Like, he mimicked the gravity powers and everybody was on the ceiling. And it was just like to make her laugh and to make her feel a bit less scared about her powers. And it actually works. And she says, he's funny. So then they end up going down to the lab all together, Brainy, Alex, and Esme. And when they're in the elevator, Brainy's like, have you ever been trained in hand-to-hand combat? And it's like, Brainy, she's like 5 years old. Come on. It's so cute. Just Uncle Brainy is everything to me. And really, Aunt Lena is everything to me, too. I love the interactions between the Super Friends and Esme. It's so adorable. So at The Hague, Kara approaches the Hand of the Flower statue, and she says Cursix, and the totem says, to obtain the totem, inspire a hope that burns longer and brighter than the sun. And Kara's like, well, shit, John, I have to inspire a hope that burns longer and brighter than the sun. And he says, you know, we're lucky that that's kind of on brand. But the flower won't budge, so Kara's got to pass her gauntlet to remove the sword from the stone. Remove the flower from the rock. They actually end up meeting at The Hague a U.S. official who is actually in charge of brokering peace talks between Casnia and Corto Maltese. And she is asking them, hey, what the hell did Nyxly do? Because my officials are kind of going buck wild in here. And they've gotten really aggressive and are starting to aim their nuclear arsenal at each other. And apparently they kind of put together the pieces that because Nyxly used the courage totem, it depleted their courage. But it doesn't mean that they're fearful. It means that they're untrustworthy. They don't trust each other. I mean, they kind of are fearful. They're fearful of brokering this deal and hurting their people. But it's obviously not going good because they need this peace talks to work out before nuclear warfare starts between the two nations. And Jean decides to actually stay behind to use his psychic abilities to keep things calm and defend the talks in case Nyxly happens to come back. And then the lady tells Jean, okay, fine, but you have to change so you don't upstage me. It's probably just because his Martian Manhunter suit is probably uncomfortable to sit in, so they're like, you know what, we're not gonna make you sit in the suit all day, just change so you don't upstage the lady. Anyway, so Kara arrives back at the tower to find Lena working with her mother's grimoire, her spell book, and the book is open. And listen, they specifically show the pages that she's looking at, and you can actually read what's on the page. So it's not just gibberish or whatever. It's they're showing us specifically the spells that she is looking at, and one of them is a flight balm. So listen, call me a clown, but I really don't think it's that far of a stretch to imagine that Lena's going to be using the flight balm at some point before the season's over. Because why else would they make a point to be look, flight, she can fly if she wants to, or something, she can make something fly. I think it's coming. They're gonna fly together at some point. Literally, why else would they specifically show the page in the book that she's looking at and make it legible, and the shot focuses on it for a good, amount of time where you can read it. You don't even have to pause it to read it. You can read flight balm, and the other one's a complexion one. But I'm just hello, they're gonna fly together. Bookmark this tweet. So Lena says that she's actually trying to find a charm to protect the humanity totem in case Nyxly comes after it. And Kara ends up bringing up her reservations in creating this lasting hope that she's responsible for, because she doesn't even know where to start, let alone have the courage to potentially try and fail. Because, hey, we all saw how bad it got when she kept failing the courage gauntlet. And Lena says, quote, "If it's a race between you and Nyxly to provide hope for a hope totem, I know where my money is going." And it's come on. They're flirting, Your Honor. Or at least Lena is flirting, Your Honor. Hello? So Alex then comes up and says that she had Esme mimic Brainy, and she actually asked her to solve the Kaluan equivalent of Einstein's theory of relativity, but she got overwhelmed by the calculations, so she's let's just take a break. Good call. Good call, Alex. And Alex asks if Kara could give a little hope to a little girl who's down in the dumps. And she says, for that little girl, anything. And then Lena literally, unprovoked, out of nowhere, says, "Elmayara, are you kidding me?" Are you kidding me? What? Guys, Lena speaking Kryptonian was on every Supercorp wish list, and yeah, she just said Elmayara, but it's Kryptonian. It was such a pointed moment. Like, oh my God, they are killing me at this point. So down in the lab, Esme says that she's like super tired, but Alex says that if she just like pushes through, she'll feel much better about her powers. And then Alex introduces Esme to Supergirl. And Esme's like, wait a minute. She has the same powers as your sister Kara. You're the same person, aren't you? It's like, everyone figured it out before Lena. Lena's upstairs like, what the hell? And Kara's like, oh shit, and Alex is like, oh shit, and she's like, hey, that's not something that we really talk about, like, we have to keep that a secret, to protect everybody, okay? And Esme's like, am I in trouble? And she's like, no, it's okay. It's just really sweet. I mean, I feel so bad that Esme is like so timid in this episode. She's just so scared of like misstepping, of like doing the wrong thing, and then Alex is gonna like kick her out on the street. And it's really adorable to watch her interact, especially in this moment when she interacts with Kara, because it's genuinely the most adorable we've probably ever seen Kara ever. And I mean, she tells Esme like about all the powers that she has as a Kryptonian, and I just feel like this is where Supergirl shines for me. Like, ever since the first season, she's been about inspiring little girls and being like palatable for little kids, and I think that is something that sets Kara apart from other superheroes in a way that's, I think, is really important to her identity, and just for me as somebody who really enjoys Supergirl, to have her have that connection to little girls, to little kids. Like, I just think it's really important, and I think it's something that people try to like shit on all the time about like superheroes. Like, people are like, Zack Snyder was making a Superman that's not for kids. Like, dude, newsflash, but Superman has been, and always will be for kids. Like, I mean, yeah, and adults, everybody can learn something from Superman and Supergirl, whatever, but there's something intrinsically appealing to children or like there's something that needs to be inclusive with children about Superman, Supergirl, all of those characters. And I just think that's something so important to those characters' identities that is so different from a character like Harley Quinn, who had the R-rated movie, but nobody's going to complain about that because Harley Quinn has kind of always been a bit of like a harder character, like a bit of a more violent character. Same thing with like Batman, I mean, well, he hasn't always been as kind of grimdark as he is now, but like people have kind of turned him into this like hard R, kind of character, and that's fine. But I think that in the efforts that people are making to adultify comics and like or superheroes or whatever, and make the superhero movies that like adults want to see or whatever, I think that loses an element of these superheroes that I think is super important, like I said with Supergirl. I mean, think back to like the Falling episode 16 of season 1. That interaction from the very beginning of the episode with the little girl where Kara reads her name through her backpack on the paper, like on her homework, and like says that she's her friend and calls her by name in front of the bullies at the school. Like, that moment was so important, and that's why it was so hard hitting when the girl threw away her Supergirl costume later in the episode, because Kara is a symbol for everyone. She's a symbol for every single person in National City, and specifically for young girls to like look up to and have a hero, and for Kara to like just be that icon for them. And I just love that. And this scene, like I said, embodies it. And she tells Esme that heat vision may sound scary, but it's actually great for making hot chocolate. Kara then actually walks her through super hearing. They listen to Alex's heartbeat. She says it's beating so fast because she's so nervous. But then she hears some construction outside, and that hurts. Then they hear a butterfly's wings flapping, and Kara says that's one of her favorite sounds. But as Esme continues to like search for things to hear about, she hears some like really scary stuff from the Casnia and Corto Maltese, protests and the unrest that is happening in those areas. And it's just not good. She kind of lashes out and she asks Alex, "Why'd you make me listen to that? You're horrible." And she runs away, and it's so sad. It's like, oh my God. So with Nyxly, Mitch says, "Watching her control the totem is beautiful." And I'm like, King, why are you so whipped? What is happening with Mitch and Nyxly? So then they kind of talk for a minute, and Nyxly decides that her plan, because she figures that she's never going to out-hope Supergirl. So basically her plan is to let Supergirl complete the gauntlet and then just, leverage the totems out of her. And she has the perfect pawn to choose. William Day. So at the peace talks, the tensions between Casnia and Corto Maltese continue to rise, with the leaders' eyes like flashing blue when they get this like surge of Totem's power. And then Jean is kind of like, trying to tamp them down, but he's unable to keep them fully stable and fully, unaffected by the totem. Then the secretary basically says, "Hey man, why don't you just brainwash them to get them to sign the peace deal, because, that's what they would have done anyway." And Jean's like, "Hey, listen, buddy, you don't know that you would have been able to broker this deal between the two of them, so I'm not going to take away their free will and mess with their human history in order to just, tamper things down. That's not what I'm about." And he basically says that he would rather stop the missiles after they fire than step in ahead of time. So then at the tower, Kara and Lena talk about her experience with Esme using her powers. She even says, "If I can't inspire hope in one little girl, how am I supposed to do it for the whole world?" And low-key, I think this is almost where the episode kind of falls off a bit, because I think it honestly would have been a little bit more effective if it was Esme that Kara needed to inspire hope in. I don't know why they decided to make her go global with this whole thing, but whatever, it's fine. Anyway, so Lena says that maybe she should just destroy these countries' nuclear arsenals, but Kara says that she can't intervene in human history. Lena is flirting with Kara again. And she's like, "Weren't you the person that just told me that it was okay that I manipulated the emotions of a ton of people to get Nyxly out?" And Kara's like, "Yeah, but that was different." She basically says that interfering in human history is something that she as an alien is not allowed or willing to do, because freedom is about free will and independence or whatever, and she wants these countries to be able to make those choices on their own. So that's what she kind of decides on. And then Kara gets Nyxly. She hears Nyxly laughing in her head like Scooby-Doo. It's a full ree. It's really odd. So Nyxly's happy about something, and Kara's very concerned about what. And so she ends up asking Lena to keep working on some kind of spell to repel Nyxly from the totem. So Lena is kind of walks into the command center or wherever, and she turns off the TV that had the depressing news on it, and she says, "Hey, maybe that's the answer." And she's like, "Look, Supergirl does hopeful things, but it's people like Kara that help frame the news in a way that makes it not scary and helps get the message out, and it makes people hopeful. So maybe it's time for Kara to try this gauntlet instead of Supergirl." And it's this moment, these moments are so insane, because it's Lena fully believing in Kara and in her humanity more than even Kara herself believes in herself or her humanity. And it's like, just like her dad said, you have to allow yourself to be human. And this thing of Lena linking Kara to her humanity is this recurring theme that it has to be recurring for a reason, you know, and the only reason is Supercorp Endgame. So with Esme, Kelly tries to comfort her and reassures her that, hey, you know, getting used to her powers is going to take some time. And Alex is like watching from the lab, I think. I don't understand the setup of this place. It's kind of confusing. It's like, do they have a lab on every floor? Do they have a med? I don't know. I need somebody to draw out a map of the tower so that we can figure it out. Because I know that it's literally just one set that they switch out all the time. But I think it's implicatory that it's like every level of the tower looks the same and they all have that like hexagonal, you know, arena in the middle, and in one floor it's a training room, and then in one floor it's a living room, and it's like, what? I don't know. Anyway, somebody needs to give me a map of the damn tower so that I'm not so confused all the time. But anyway, so before Kelly actually goes to talk to Alex, Esme says that maybe it would just be best if they took her back to the group home before her powers can hurt them too. And when talking with Kelly, because Kelly ends up kind of like, you know, taking that in and is like, shit, like that is so sad. And so she gets up and goes to talk to Alex, and Alex is like, listen, I feel so horrible because I was acting more like a drill sergeant than a mother. And she says that's never what Eliza was like with Kara. But then Kelly reminds Alex that Kara and Eliza fought all the time, and apparently Kara almost burned down the house once with her heat vision. So she tells her that, listen, everybody needs a grace period. Just cut yourself some slack. And Kelly then confesses to kind of her own, I wouldn't say flub, but just like something that she missed earlier in the day. And she says that Esme's true fear isn't really about her powers, but it's more about her fear of abandonment. And as a therapist, she feels like she should have seen that. And they decide together that they'll get through this. They just need to figure out a way to get her to see the truth. So at Catco, Kara submitted an article to Andrea, but she tells her it's trash. She says she didn't think Kara could be so petty as to try to steal William's exclusive. But Kara says, listen, I'm just offering a different spin on things by highlighting something good happening in the world. You know, Martian Manhunter guarding the peace talks is pretty cool. But Andrea says, listen, Kara, the world is not good. She looked at Kara in her Paragon of Hope face and said, the world is not good, Kara. And that there's basically nothing but doom and gloom to report on. And Kara's like, that's so not true. But before they could truly fight about it, Nyxlex shows up and strikes fear into William, freezing him with fear. And then Andrea says, can someone get a camera on this? It's like, oh my god, no one cares about this man's well-being. So Nyxlex says that she has a message for Supergirl. Bring her the totems by sundown or William dies. Kara, standing still behind Andrea, flicks a paperclip at some glass to shatter it, and she uses that as a distraction to slip away and enters Supergirl, where she also gets frozen in fear by Nyxlex. And then Nyxlex just like yeets Andrea across the room, and she almost smashes into her TV wall, but Kara saves her. But when she looks back, William and Nyxlex are gone. So with Kara, she does some old school street level superhero stuff, like give a little girl a new ice cream cone after she dropped hers. She saves an old man crossing the street. But it's not enough. She still fails her first attempt at the Hope Gauntlet. But I really love that scene. It reminded me again of like season 1, and then there was also a scene in season 4 with Kara kind of interacting with the citizens, and I love that. I love that stuff. So on Nyxley's ship, Nyxley and William have a kind of stupid discussion about the free press, and it's like, why does an imp from the 5th dimension have opinions about the American free press? Like, it's fine. So as he's locked up in one of the brigs, he kind of is like, what is your deal? And she says the powerful will always believe their way is righteous. But she says that that's exactly what her father was like and that he decimated her. And then William's like, you really think you're doing justice? She says, yeah. I love Nyxley's one-word answers, like, which is like, nah. And then she's like, yeah. I love it. I love her one-word answers. She's a woman of not many words, and I love that. So at the tower, Lena tries to put a protection charm on the totem, but apparently it's like super short-lived. It's like a little zap. It's like, zzz, and then it's done. Whoops. And then Brainy also isn't super helpful. Kara comes in saying she saved cats from trees and people from crime, but she still didn't pass the test. And she says, please tell me you two have good news. But they are the bad news brigade. They have no good news. So with Dansen and Esme, Alex apologizes to Esme and they tell her that they have another gift for her. He's actually called Truth Seeker, and she can mimic his powers in order to tell if Alex and Kelly are telling her the truth for 100% certain. They tell her that no matter what she does, what she says, even if she never wants to use her powers again or they get out of control, they're her family now and they're never going to abandon her. And as they're talking to Esme, she's like holding their hands so that she could tell if they're lying or not. And she tells them that she had a family before, but bad things ended up happening to them. And then she was alone. And Alex then says, hey, you want to know what your moms do for a living? We're superheroes. But the thing is, Alex, I know that you're broke as shit. You said for a living, like, oh my God, I know you're on unemployment. You don't have a job. If anything, Kelly's the only one that has a job in that relationship. You guys just fight crime on the side. But the scene ends with a really, really cute moment of Esme saying, I believe you. So in the command center, Jean says that the peace talks totally broke down and now they're on the brink of nuclear war. And Kara says, this morning I was so hopeful with Esme and with everything, and now the world has gone to shit. And Kara says that she isn't going to just sit by on the sidelines anymore because Nyxley is the one interfering with human history and she does not care about the consequences. So it's time for Kara to fight back. She is going to disarm those countries and inspire that hope. Brainy says that Lena can direct her on comms, and it's like, okay, King, why can't you do it? It's always Lena. It's always Lena that has to be Kara's partner in everything. Like, come on, y'all. And he also tells her that Kara should have time to spare before Nyxley's deadline after figuring out the world stage that they're trying to fix. Lena then suggests using the totems on Nyxley when they come and find her, but Jean says, hey, this is too dangerous, and Lena's like, well, my charm is like, it's pretty puny, and it's not really going to do much, but it's still, none of that matters, because a missile was fired anyway, and now they have to stop it. So in Kasnia, Kara catches the missile and she's able to answer a little boy who thanks her in Russian or Kasnian. I can't remember if they established that Kasnian people speak Russian or if it's supposed to be like, yeah, it's Russian, but in the show it's Kasnian. I can't remember. But I choose to believe that Kara can speak Kasnian because of Red Daughter. She's floating around in her brain. So Jean and Brainy end up collecting the other ones, and then Brainy holds on to the ones that were fired while Alex and Jean go and grab the rest of their nuclear arsenal and to disarm them. And Kara, when they go off to collect each of their nuclear weapons, she says, I've got a soft spot for Kasnia. So she goes and collects their nuclear arms, and it's like, Red Daughter. So Brainy and Jean then fly the missiles into the sun, and Kara returns to The Hague. She says Cursix, and she passes. She gets the totem, and she says, Lena, I'm heading your way now. So at Catco, Kara confronts Nyxley and William, and when Kara throws the totem to her, it shocks her. Like, it gives her a little bzzz. So William tries to run, but she ends up grabbing him again. But then he does like a leg sweep and he knocks her down, and then he grabs the totem out of her little bracelet thing and it restores to the slingshot, and it severs the connection between Kara and Nyxly, and it's like R.I.P. to the Nyxlex theory. Like, oh god. But and it's like, wait. So Kara can't do shit against Nyxly, but then all of a sudden William, the human reporter, can do a leg sweep and she's down for the count and he gets a totem from her? Like, what? Anyway. So Nyxly tries to beam them all up to the ship, but Kara super speeds her and William out of there and with the totems in their possession. At the tower, the Super Friends now have 3 out of 7 totems locked up and safeguarded. Kara says that they're doing the same thing over and over again, and chasing her is not an option anymore. They decide that they have to stop Nyxly from ever being able to assemble the Allstone, ever, by destroying the totems. And Lena's like, whoa, wait a second. These elements, and connections to the totems and the real world seem like pretty solid. Maybe destroying the totem would affect that element in the real world. But Brainy's like, we don't have to destroy all of them. We just have to destroy one, because a missing piece is a missing piece nonetheless. So they have to pick which totem is the most disposable. And Lena's like, well, it's not humanity, because we saw what people turned into, when they had no humanity. And Jean says, well, it's not courage, because we just saw what happened when world leaders don't have any courage. So they decide that hope is the most disposable. Kara says that they prove that even when the world has lost all hope, they can be the example to bring it back. It's like, hey girl, I get it, but I don't know if you can shoulder all that. I don't know. But we'll just have to see, because she did it anyway. At Dansen's place, they tuck Esme in for bed, and they tell her that they know that knowing the truth didn't solve everything, and that they're here for her no matter how long it takes. And she tells them that she loves her room. Then talking just between the two of them, Kelly says that no one tells you how being a mom brings up all your past trauma and your biggest insecurities. But then Alex says that it's even better than she ever imagined, as she gets choked up about being Esme's mom. It's like, if only Sam Arias could see Alex now. If only Ruby could see Alex. Really, if only Maggie Sawyer could see Alex. Like, it's so wonderful to see Alex get everything she's ever wanted. She has Kelly. She has Esme. She has the tower. She has Sentinel as a being, as like an identity. She has everything she's ever wanted, and it's so satisfying to see her finally get it all. She's able to have it all, and it's just so wonderful. So in space, like I said, Kara throws the hope totem into the sun. Oh shit. So Nyxly sees in her little crystal ball that Kara destroyed the hope totem, and she starts to cry. But before she could get too upset, she gets a package via portal and this kind of like very Hunger Games parachute. And the note inside says, "Don't lose hope, devotedly, your secret admirer." And it's a watch. And she activates the watch. And she gets a Lexosuit. Shit. So it was Lex that made the first move on Nyxly. And again, this is something that people have pointed out online, but of course, when Lex gives Nyxly a suit and a watch, it's romantic as all hell. But, Lena giving Kara suits and suits and suits over the years is not romantic. And Kara giving Lena a watch that calls for her anytime she wants, was that also not romantic? I don't know. I hope that maybe, like I said, the Nyxlex theory is dead because they're not connected anymore. But it could be that, they're still going to parallel Nyxly and Lex with Kara and Lena. Like I said, Lena and Lex are narrative foils, and the same thing with Kara and Nyxly. And it's like, what better way to create this, really messed up parallel if your main hero and your main villain are both dating two separate Luthers. It would be really interesting, and I'm really excited to see. I don't know, I'm still excited to see how it goes. And I like I said, I genuinely still think that we're paving the path, guys. We're on the road to Supercorp Endgame, and I I can't imagine that there's any other way that this is gonna go. I don't know. So then we got a promo, but it didn't really look like an episodic promo. It looked kind of more like a 5 episodes left to go promo, which is really sad. That means there's only 4 weeks left. 4 weeks. That's insane. That's really sad. And really, just a fair warning, since the finale is airing in 2 parts, actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. Would you want a 2 separate parts for the 2-part finale? Which, I mean, in reality, it's 2 separate episodes, so it's not like, a big long thing. It's 2 separate episodes, but it's airing on the same night. Would you rather me cover them in 2 separate episodes, so 18 or 19 and then 20, or do one big giant long episode for the finale of Supergirl, covering 19 and 20, and it'll be really long though. That's the thing. So you guys let me know. Think about it and let me know what you think, because I will do whatever you want to hear. Either way is good with me. But anyway, that's all I got. But also in the promo though, we saw what's next, which is the Dream Totem, because next episode is called Nightmare in National City. It's a really Nia heavy episode, and it's finally the return of Maeve, Nia's bitch ass sister. And I'm really excited to see how they work this out, because this has been a long time coming, obviously. I mean, it's been since season 4, since Nia saw her sister, and obviously she harbors so much guilt about her sister, but there's also so much left on Maeve's side and on Nia's side. So I'm really excited to see exactly how this plays out, and finally see Nia resolve something that's been hanging over her head for a long time. It'll be really special. But yeah, and also DC Fandom is today when you're listening to this. Happy DC Fandom Day. Supergirl have a big farewell special happening, so definitely, enjoy that. I know I will. Anyway, that is all I have for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to rate, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. And you can tweet me at TelevisePod. Let me know what you think. What did you think of this episode? Leave me a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Bye.